What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we're going to be analyzing the UFC 274 pay-per-view, and we're coming off a good week, Ozzy. Both profit and our bet MMAs, our best bet parlay of the week one, and I felt last week was just a pretty solid podcast and good reads from us. So I imagine you had a pretty good week. How was New Orleans? How was last week's betting for you, and how are you looking forward to
Oof.
this week?
Definitely, I would probably say one of my better weeks of the year so far when you throw in the NFL draft. I think I swept that except for like one or two plays for the most part. And then, like you said, podcast, was really, really good. Even some long shots or things that, were leans like Brito, KO, and, Dawson submission, coming through and some things like that. And then a few of the, like you said, the best bets like Green, coming back late after getting knocked down there a bit. So was I thought a pretty good overall card action wise. MMA media just really annoys me how they go back and like, oh well, it delivered, but it was still a bad card, but whatever it is. But yeah, I just think that this pay per view card very very good mix. Looking forward to it. Have some good bets that I'm feeling good about, and yeah, ready to it's a big fat 15 fight card, so gonna definitely have to pace yourself through it and hopefully make it through profitable.
Yeah, 1.39 unit profit for me. We got hosed a little bit on the Jay Collier decision, of course. Would have been a really good night without that, but still a solid night of profit. And yeah, you hit some good big props. I called out Gabe Green knockout round two plus 1200 last week. So some big props coming through for us. That's always nice when that happens. Real quick before we get into this week, how many bet MMA profits did you have?
3.81 only units in the profit. Only loss was thinking that Feely fight would go later. Feely's chin failed him though. His jab was just too easy to counter there, and he got detonated on by a Brito right hand. But it is what it is. Overall, other than that, swept the board. So pretty good week overall.
Nice, and that's gonna do it for last week's recap. We got to get right into this week. Oh, of course, and we got to say, great performance from Chito Vera. He deserved that main event for a long time, and he proved it that he deserved it. So very happy for our boy to get that win. And we got 15 fights, so we got to get into these bitches. We got Journey Newson taking on Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia making his UFC debut, and he is the favorite here at minus 149. Journey Newson plus 129. So just taking a look at Fernie Garcia's contender series fight. I mean, this guy looks uncomfortable in striking range to me. He's leaning away from shots. He doesn't really have good boxing defense. He can be leg kicked. He doesn't really offensively grapple either. So I just think based on how skittish this guy looked on the contender series, that you can't be betting this guy as a favorite. It's just a matter of, do you want to take the stab on Newson? I do think Newson is probably the better overall fighter. He has tighter boxing, comes from like a boxing taekwondo background, kind of a mix of the two. And I think you could probably argue a small bet on Newson here just because he's a little more experienced. We've seen him in the UFC for longer. So I think there's a good chance these guys just swing to the death and one of them gets knocked out. But I'll side with the dog, Newson, probably a small bet here. What are you thinking about the first fight of the night?
Yeah, I definitely prefer the Journey Newson side. Overall, I felt that Garcia was so bad that I bet that bomb Weems on the contender series when they came in together. So obviously, I think I have to take the UFC level guy in Journey here as well. I just think that his grappling, I think overall is a little bit higher level than Journey's is. He trains up in that north or trained in that Northwest with Impact Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a little familiar with them, and that is definitely a solid ground game and Jiu-Jitsu camp. I think he just got his black belt as well from them. And overall, I think he's pretty quick. Overall, he might be a little undersized to the weight class, but Garcia doesn't really have power, doesn't show very good conditioning as either, which at 135 is definitely an issue. And I think because he's not overly large, I think that Journey's going to be able to be on the front foot a little bit more here, not be bullied like he was against Ricardo Ramos and some of his other opponents, and maybe be able to take this fight into the later rounds. I don't have that much conviction on finish or a stoppage or if it's going to go the distance. But I think if I did play a Journey, I would try to take a piece also of him by decision, just because Garcia is he's a little weaselly. I feel like he does slow down, but I think he could potentially stay in the fight later on. And I think Journey by decision's like plus 240 or so. So yeah, we'll take that dog shot in the opening fight.
Yeah, having a bet on the first fight of the night is always a fun feeling, so we'll go with the dog there. Next fight is in the women's strawweight division. We got Lupe Godinez is one of Ozzy's girls here, taking on Ariane Carnosoli, plus 160 for Carnosoli, minus 185 for the favorite Godinez. What are you thinking about the first women's fight on this card?
I laid claim to Godinez very, very early, so I don't want to see any nonsense about anybody else. Trying to call dibs on her. But I think it's a difficult matchup overall for her. She's going from probably the least physical and athletic girl in the division. Your girl, Loma Lump, whatever the fuck, and she's going against whatever Carnelossi is on. She's on, some thick anabolics. She's jacked. She looks like all she does is curls and dips, and I think it's gonna be tough for Godinez to potentially get her down and keep her down, in the same way that she was getting in on Loma. And then at range, Carnelossi, the issue is she just doesn't really stay at range and allow you to cut angles and throw really clean punches. And if that is what you're looking to do, it's going to be very energy, demanding, right? You're gonna have to continue moving your feet. You're gonna have to continue to change the speed on your strikes and the angles of them. So it definitely is a taxing fight that she's in the bring. She's really sloppy, but the thing is, Godinez does not have I have never seen her have really fight-ending power. She has gone 5 rounds, so her cardio is pretty good. I don't think it's like world class or top level. So I think it's going to be a difficult fight for both of them. It's going to be very gritty, but I can see Godinez's wrestling and the technical acumen of it, come on top in the scrambles. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Carnelossi on top of her, right? Even Loma, that little boy, was able to come out on top of Godinez on a few occasions. So I think it's gonna be a sweaty fight, and the people that think that this is going to be an easy walkthrough for Godinez, I think, are very incorrect. The price on Carnelossi got really crazy, got up to like plus 180, plus 190, almost, and my simpism for Godinez, clouded my vision, and kept me away from that. But I mean, if I was gonna make a bet at this point at a plus 150 number, it would definitely be on Carnelossi, just because I don't think that Lupi's gonna really put her away. Unless I don't think she's going to put her away. And then I think it could be a contentious first 2 rounds and a third round where the pressure of Carnelossi comes through. So I'll pick Godinez. I would only play Carnelossi, and if I would back Godinez, honestly, it would have to be, even though I said that I don't think she's in the finisher, it would have to be like by submission or inside the distance, because I could see Carnelossi being a little overzealous, over eager, and getting planted on the ground, and Godinez getting a good position there, like the back mount or something like that, and then getting the finish. But I think it's gonna be a really, really difficult fight, and I'm intrigued to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with most there. I won't add too much. I just think that Carnelossi is just a crazy physical athlete, and even though Godinez is the more skilled fighter, she's definitely the cleaner striker. Probably is the better overall grappler too. I mean, if you saw Carnelossi's fight against Liang, just a bunch of sloppy grappling exchanges there. I mean, I think that if you're worried about Godinez establishing top, you should go back and rewatch how sloppy the grappling was against that Na Liang woman. So Carnelossi, I think her skill is definitely she's at a skill disparity here, but she can keep herself in the fight with just her physicality. So I agree that the pick will definitely be Godinez by decision, but I think that it is definitely dog or pass. Not interested in Godinez at this price. And that's going to move us along to the flyweight division. We have Kleidson Rodrigues making his long-awaited UFC debut. CJ Vergara is his opponent. Kleidson Rodrigues minus 350, coming back CJ Vergara plus 285. So I thought Rodriguez looked like one of the better prospects coming out of the Contender Series last year. But then rewatching his fight, I did see that he does take his time. He is patient. He is I think a pretty high level striker. But he also doesn't have the highest volume. He's looking to really pick his shots well, and that always isn't the best recipe for these lower weight classes, because sometimes volume and aggression can sway these rounds. And I think that we could see Rodriguez maybe taking his time a little bit too much, and I think Vergara comes forward. He puts up high volume. One thing I noticed about the Vergara fight against O'Day is even though he lost that fight, he did land more and more strikes each round. So the third round was his best round. He knew he was down in that fight. He came out aggressive. He had a big round three, landed some strikes, landed a takedown. So he showed some grit in that fight to me. He showed good cardio, and I think that Vergara is going to probably be game here at plus 300. He'll be way above plus 300 by the time the fight comes. So I think this is kind of like a spot where Rodriguez has to prove himself. There's no way you could be betting on him at minus 350 here. I wouldn't even parlay him. And I think it's really Vergara or pass here. So I hope Rodriguez is the real deal. I hope he wins this fight in impressive fashion. But there's no way I could be laying this heavy chalk on him to do so. So the only option is to stab on Vergara here.
Cool fight. Both these guys are tough. I think both these guys are durable. They bring the fight. They bring the action. They're all to come forward. Rodriguez was the guy who fought CFFC staple in Santo in his debut in his Contender Series fight, and I was all over Rodriguez there. Even with the lack of tape, I mean, you could just tell this guy's the goods. He's high level athlete.
I remember that you texted me before the fight and you said this Rodriguez 100%. Guy is the real deal.
100%. He's got really clean striking, powerful, has the variety on the feet and then on the ground, and in the wrestling as well. He's also very talented. I don't know how long he can stay at this 125 weight class. Vergara also, he missed weight last time, so watch these guys in the scales potentially. But I do think this could have potential to be a close fight. Rodriguez, he doesn't push the pace, to a crazy degree. I think it is to conserve maybe some energy. So the over 2.5 is a line that minus 125. It opened at a dog price here. I think that's a little bit interesting here, just because I do think that both these guys, are pretty quick, so they might be able to avoid each other's strikes, especially early on, and then maybe that'll take some power out of both of them, where it'll be a little bit more difficult to get a finish. But if otherwise, maybe you look at Rodriguez by submission, I think might be a little bit more likely of an outcome than they're giving it credit for. But I'm going to be looking at potentially this to go the distance or the over for a very small play, just because it is no longer plus money. But that's the only play that I'd be looking to do, and then otherwise looking to gather information between these two guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. Over goes the distance take. Only issue is Vergara getting dropped by Jacob Silva, but I think that maybe will be an outlier. Hopefully,
that was a small ass cage though. They were in like a tiny little cage,
and he did still come on top of that fight. So next fight, one of your most awaited ones here. We got women's flyweight division. The undefeated in the UFC, Tracy Cortez, taking on Melissa Gatto. Cortez minus 141, Gatto plus 121. What are you thinking about the second women's fight on this card?
I love this fight. I love this fight a lot. And I think that, I think this is going to be where people find out, or I don't know. I think we're going to find out a lot between these two girls. We're going to find out, is Tracy Cortez really a UFC fighter? And is Melissa Gatto the level of prospect that I think she is? Because I think this is a good matchup for Melissa Gatto, even though this is a hometown fight for Tracy. Now, let me just put it like this. Tracy, she's won a lot of her fights, just getting takedowns, getting to the back body triangle. Almost winning her fights like Grant Dawson does, funny enough. Another guy that I like, getting a takedown, person, exposes their back, locking a body triangle, then doing nothing, for the most part. But she's been fighting, like she fought Justin Quiche, slowed down, didn't even make 125, and then those other two fights against Edgar and Vanessa Mello were just, I don't know. Vanessa Mello is very immobile. She's at like 155 in the PFL now, so I mean that was like a gimme fight. And the Stephanie Edgar one, I don't know. It just Stephanie Edgar just did not have enough of a striking attack at that time, and was just looking too slow for Tracy. And Tracy was, not cutting down that 125 weight class. But overall, I just think that her offense is just like, on the feet. I don't like what she does, and then when she gets the takedowns, like she does. I don't think she's that aware on the ground and that good of a grappler. And I think Melissa Gatto, between the submissions, the sweeps, the awareness that she has, off her back, her last fight against Sarge Eubanks is a very, very big girl for 125, has a hard time making it, but other than Mackenzie Dern has probably the most experience in high level jiu-jitsu matches, just from her background in with Lloyd Irvin, right? She went all the way up to black belt, I think, there, and for like 3 4 5 years was competing almost every week in all the jiu-jitsu tournaments around the world, both gi and no gi. So she's a very, very competent grappler, and you saw Melissa Gatto was able to stay patient, there. Some of the maneuvers she was able to hit there, keeping distance, moving her hips, hitting a hook sweep, looking for submissions, looking to land on top when takedowns happened. And then in her other fights, she has looked pretty good in the clinch. She knows how to block the hips. She has that inside trip of her own that Tracy Cortez is really good at, that she definitely learned from Henry Cejudo. So she's competent and aware at everything that Tracy does well. And then on the feet, she's long. She throws that 1-2 really, really cleanly. She's got kicks. She'll throw leg kicks. You saw that body kick she landed on Sarge. And then overall, she just built different. I told Martian before this, like, I feel Tracy, no offense to her, but I think she's built for Instagram, and Melissa Gatto is built for the UFC cage. So I think that this is going to be a coming out party for Melissa Gatto. The line's already been moving down. I've taken a pretty good sized position on her. I'm down to do a little bit more as well. These were slightly better numbers beforehand. I'll tell you already, it'll be my best bet of the week. But I just think this girl's powerful. She's looking to do damage in that cage. And even if this is a hometown fight for Tracy Cortez, I just feel that the offense that she's shown is not going to translate very well here. And I think Melissa Gatto is going to get a big win on Saturday and announce herself in this 125 division.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything there. My history with Cortez is on BetMMA. I tried my biggest bet ever for her against Vanessa Mello. I parlayed her against Justine Kish, and I think I'm done. I think I'm done betting her for the foreseeable future. I mean, after just squeaking out that split decision over Justine Kish, which on rewatch, really good argument that she lost the last 2 rounds there. There's no way you could be betting Cortez as the favorite anymore. I mean, the woman just doesn't do enough. Ozzy hit a lot of good points about her. Once she gets her takedown, she doesn't really look to submit. She kind of just holds on. Her striking threat is really abysmal. And I think this might be the first fight since she's dating Brian Ortega too, right? I wonder how that'll go. I wonder if we'll see any effects. Maybe Cortez will get her ass kicked the entire fight, and then she'll come back with like a round 3 triangle. But Gatto is just, a fucking unit, man. I mean, she is so much more muscular, and like her frame is just crazy, man. I mean, I remember I bet Victoria Leonardo against Gatto, and then like seeing Gatto in the cage, I just knew how fucked we were right off the bat. I mean, this woman is just a tank, and she's the much better striker. I mean, she's a damaging striker, and then I mean, I saw everything I needed to against Sarge Eubanks and with her bottom game. And I know she got held on bottom in round 1 there, but in round 2, just look at the way she's getting her guard back. She, I think, has a really good understanding of the guard submissions. She can attack Kimuras and triangles and arm bars. And, she had a really nice butterfly sleep on Sarge Eubanks too. And I think that Sijara is a heavier on top than Cortez is. So I think that even if Gatto gets taken down here, I trust her bottom game to be able to stay safe. And when this fight's on the feet, I mean, Gatto is going to be doing damage to Cortez. And if those body kicks and those body shots are landing, Cortez will slow down even more than she did last fight. And I think Gatto is going to really pull away late here. So maybe even look to add some more live. I think Cortez could definitely win round one here with her grappling, but I think that she'll definitely fade in the later rounds, and Gatto will build in those later rounds too. So I agree with Ozzy. Even at pre-fight, she is the side to be betting on. I have a bet on her as well, and like I said, maybe look to be adding some live bets here as well. If she starts slow, she can come back and pull this one off anyway. So we're in agreement there. Next fight, short notice fight thrown together on really late notice. Andre Fialho coming off a knockout just 2 or 3 weeks ago, taking on Cameron-VanCamp, making his UFC debut. We got Fialho minus 350, VanCamp plus 285. I mean, I don't see much skill from VanCamp on the other side. I mean, his fights are sloppy. They're in really low-level regional promotions. I mean, even if you watch his most recent fight, I mean, just a total sloppy fighter in every phase of the fight, especially the defensive boxing area. So Fialho should have all the tools to knock him out. Fialho much more experienced, harder hitter, better striker. But the fact that this was thrown together on 2 weeks, Fialho did just fight like not that long ago, and it wasn't exactly an easy fight too. You know, he did eat some shots there from Baeza before pulling off the comeback knockout. So I'd say it probably is dog or pass, just based on the fact that there's a lot of volatility and uncertainty going on here. But I would also be pretty surprised to see VanCamp win a UFC fight. So do with that what you will. What are your thoughts here? You have any?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about VanCamp when he was supposed to fight Nicholas Mata. I mean, I kind of labeled this guy as like, and now I see it kind of clearly. Like he's just kind of like a UFC jobber that they'll just call him when they have like a guy that they want to have get knocked out by. They put this together on like 10 days notice. Like doesn't even make a lot of sense. There are no props on this fight yet, but I wouldn't really like to bet Fialho. I mean, you getting this guy 80% when almost where they're gonna just be exchanging, and VanCamp, he's not good at sloppy fights, but he is used to just brawling with guys. So he might have a better chin than a guy like Baeza does, and that Fialho doesn't really have great cardio. He's doing another weight cut here. He's probably high on his own supply here. I don't know if he expected to get this fight, so I wouldn't parlay it. Like, it's just like too many unknowns for this fight. It's an action fight, littered onto the card here and dropped in the middle of it. So good one to, I say, pass on, enjoy it. Hopefully there's some violence on it and you're like, oh, great knockout or whatever it is. Maybe play an under if it drops and you could get a good number. But other than that, I would pass on it overall.
That's a good analysis of that one. Next fight, heavyweight division. Blagoy Ivanov making his comeback after 2 years, taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Ivanov is the favorite, minus 140. De Lima plus 120 on the comeback. So, do you think the old Bulgarian here at the favorite is the right move to be making?
Interesting fight. I'm not too sure. I think it's been, how long has it been since Blagoy fought? It has
2
to be.
years.
That's almost 3. 2 is. I thought it might have been 3. Oh, he fought. Oh, right. He fought Sakai in an early COVID event. So I mean, he should have won that Sakai fight. He took Sakai down at one point, and it was like one of the crazier fence grabs you'll see. And then after that, he was just, I think, like his whole corner and him, they were all like all over the place, and he arguably still won that fight. Obviously, this guy, it's very difficult to hurt him. He's Francis Ngannou's like main sparring partner in Vegas, which is insane. But the reason is because you can't hurt him. But I'll tell you, De Lima is gonna try very, very hard. And he's coming off that win over Ben Rato, where he was just so much quicker than him. It was kind of hilarious. It was almost like one of those like Street Fighter like special moves when you hit those buttons in the back and the guy just goes nuts. And that's how it looked like. And I wouldn't be surprised if it looked like that here again. But the issue for me is, Blagoy, he I think he has a grappling advantage here, durability potentially advantage. He's got way more heart than De Lima does. He's got a better ground game and a clinch game, I feel, as well. And I think he wouldn't accept bottom position like some people that De Lima has fought in the past. So I mean, this price, I don't mind it here on Blagoy. Like, I'm not taking anything over minus 140. Like, I'm not getting close to that 60% number, just because I think that's like the cutoff where, you have to give De Lima some equity, on a good amount of equity on the KO. Just even though how tough Blagoy is. Um, you don't know if he's, potentially taking too many punches from Francis to suck away some of that durability. But I feel that, Blagoy could potentially land that overhand left, right? He fights him, if I'm not incorrect, from the southpaw stance a good fair bit of amount of time. And De Lima doesn't usually fight fighters like that. The under right now is at minus 125 for the 2.5. I mean, DeLima's a quitter, and I don't like to say that because me and DeLima, we're birthday boys, we're birthday bros. It's our birthday month. He's
Geminis.
a Gemini.
Yep.
He's a Gemini like me exactly, but he's fickle like that. He's a front runner sometimes, right? He'll have a strong Lima, in the first early part where he's fucking you up, and then weak Lima comes out later on in the fight. But I'm interested also to see the weight Lima comes in at 259. He was walling out on Big Ben, but at 265, he was just holding Maurice Green. But Blagoy is a different level heavyweight. I'm interested. I know some sharp guys are on the Lima side. I think this would be a good fight. I'll gravitate and pick the Blagoy side, and I'm interested maybe in Blagoy ITD as well, which is almost 2-1, 2-1 in some books. So I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty conflicted about this fight. On one hand, Ivanov, he's 35, but I swear this dude is closer to 45 than 35. He was stabbed in the chest at one point with like a gigantic knife, so that probably aged you a few years. But he's like a low output boxer type of guy, right? All of his wins are typically by decision, or most. I think he's fairly slow. He's coming off a 2-year layoff. I mean, those are a lot of concerns right off the bat. And the fact that he's still the favorite, I mean, does go to show that he is the more skilled fighter. That at one point, Ivanov's prime version definitely beats De Lima, but now the 2022 version, I think you do have to be pretty skeptical of. But De Lima tends to collapse at like the first sign of adversity. I mean, he either wins by early knockout, which he's done a few times lately. He wins by dominant decision, where the guys have no takedown defense, no bottom game. But he also, collapsed against Stefan Struve. I mean, he won round one so easily against Stefan Struve and still found a way to lose that fight in round two. He's just not a guy who really battles through adversity well. He's not a tough, gritty type of fighter. Ivanov, I would say, is. I mean, like I said, the dude battled back from being stabbed with like an 8-inch blade in the center of the chest, by the way. And Ivanov hasn't even been losing these fights decisively. Made it close against Sakai, made it close against Lewis. Like you said, the cage grab was big for Sakai. The crowd popping off for Lewis was big in those decisions. So I don't think Ivanov has shown too many signs of slowing down, but I also don't think that I'm interested in betting him off this layoff. And I could see De Lima coming out hard, maybe landing some hands on Ivanov. Ivanov does have a pretty good chin historically. I would be interested to see the wrestling of this fight. Who is going to end up on top? I think if anybody ends up on top, I think De Lima has a better chance at keeping that top position. We actually have seen De Lima escape bottom before in the UFC, so I trust him a little bit more, but I don't really know. I'm leaning towards the dog in terms of like a betting perspective, but I also think this fight might be one to just sit back and pass on and watch, because there's just not enough conviction to be betting on this. So that's enough about that one. Next fight, flyweight division, we got Brandon Royval, one of our most disliked fighters in the podcast, taking on Matt Schnell. And Royval is a pretty decent favorite here, minus 235. Schnell plus 200. He's plus 220 right now on FanDuel. So, I mean, I'm interested in betting against Royval at almost any price, right? And when you give me 2-1, I'm definitely going to be interested. But I don't really see any area where Schnell has a big advantage here. Schnell is not an offensive wrestler, so Royval, his terrible defensive wrestling won't likely be exposed here. So this fight likely will stay striking. But if it does end up in the grappling, Schnell, a dangerous submission threat, has multiple subs in the UFC. I don't necessarily see Schnell ending up on top and keeping top to win rounds, but he could definitely submit Royval in a crazy scramble. And the striking, I do think, slightly favors Royval just because he's long, he's high output, he throws a big variety of offense. But Schnell's a solid boxer. Nice orthodox versus southpaw matchup here. I think Schnell has maybe a speed advantage in the hands, and hopefully Schnell just comes out throwing a high amount of punches because I think that could make Royval uncomfortable, and it'll be close. And there's just no way that you could be betting on Royval to cover minus 200 in the UFC. He's just pretty incapable of doing that. Has not come close to covering minus 200 in a single UFC fight so far. So I'm down for a small bet on Schnell, and don't overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, I share the same sentiments. I mean, I just don't like Brandon Royval as a fighter. Like this guy, I mean, there's no power on any of his strikes, right? So the way he and is smart. The way that he tries to, make up for that is by just spinning all the time, spinning strikes, flying knees, jumping knees, having insane cardio, right? Obviously, right, to just rack up volume. But overall, I mean, this guy's garbage. I feel overall, like, yeah, he's won some fights, but I mean. He just needs like big moments. He needs you to get tired, and I think this matchup honestly is very good for Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell's almost died a few times making weight. Like I don't know what happened last time. I'm not gonna get into it too much, but apparently like he closed his eyes to like drink some water or some shit, and the commission rushed him and they canceled his fight. Whatever, but just like this dude's footwork is pretty clean. He keeps his hands up. He's gonna be able to cut angles on Brandon Royval. Look at the strikes that Brandon Royval throws at Bontorin. Like Bontorin's like, are you kidding? Like they have no effect. And then anytime that Bontorin, who is not a good striker, throws strikes, he hits this guy clean on the chin, right? Like spinning his head around. And I think that Schnell's gonna be able to do the similar. The fact that Schnell is not very durable, right? He's had his chin cracked a few times. I mean, this shouldn't be that big of an issue here against Royval unless he gets hit again, like I said, with one of those spinning strikes or whatever it is. But I mean, there's just no way that I could get to this price on Brandon Royval for him to reliably beat a guy who, I feel that Brandon Royval is a little bit of a loose grappler. I feel that Schnell is more of a classically trained. He'll get some good positions. In the grappling, and even though he's not shown to be a wrestler, Brandon Royval fights just end up on the ground, like some way, shape, or form. Like you could grab this guy's leg right off a kick, you could catch it, and he'll just fall down. And I think Schnell should be able to have the cardio and conditioning to maybe not let him up to the feet, consolidate some positions, and when they are on the feet, the footwork of Matt Schnell, the way he cuts angles, is able to reset, not stay on the cage, throw straight shots, has better shot selection. There's just no way that I could get to this plus 200 number, and I think you get here mostly on the fact that this guy's got his chin cracked a few times, and they have a common opponent, right? Their last opponent or second to last, I don't remember, is Bontorin. Bontorin fucked up Matt Schnell, and he got lost barely to Brandon Royval. So this is like a crazy price. Like Brandon Royval shouldn't be 2-1 against anyone that has any semblance to cardio. So it's very odd to me. So plus 210, 215. I got a 220 here on FanDuel. Give me that all day. If he sleeps Schnell, so be it. But I don't think that he's in a like they're giving him 220 plus 150 for Royval submission on DraftKings.
Insane.
Crazy to me.
Like where do they get that number from?
I don't know. He's just not that great of a grappler for him to be able to submit guys in this weight class like that aren't like just gassing. You know what I mean? Like the reason that he submitted Tim Elliott, he gassed, he rocked, Kai Kara France, right? But some of these submissions that he's pulling are like they're the same kind of submissions that freaking Schnell pulls, right? They're like, opportunistic subs and stuff like that. But Matt Schnell's not the kind of guy that really gives you, subs like that. So I could be eating crow at the end of the day, but that's a crazy price. Like if you take that, like that's like kind of donating money long term to the books. So give me Matt Schnell here on the money line.
Schnell knockout too, plus 1,000.
I love it all. All the Schnell lines are a good value, I think.
Next to another women's fight, 3 out of 4 women's fights on the card. Featherweight division here. We got Macy Chiasson taking on Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont, the favorite at minus 220. Chiasson coming back plus 185. And you can start this one off, right?
Yeah, very very cool of them to put in a bathroom break fight here, where right before, like a few fights before the main card, after you've had like 6 or 7 fights on the prelims. I mean, Macy, she's back up at this 145 weight class. She had that fight against Lad canceled in October, takes a short notice fight against Raquel in December, misses weight at 10. Right, she was supposed to fight Lad at bantamweight, misses 10 pounds up by like 3 pounds for no reason, and then gets absolutely dominated. I mean, I think she started off strong or fine, but I mean, that tap to that guillotine, like ridiculous.
Insane.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that that was a real submission that Raquel caught, but I love Raquel. But either way, Macy, like just like her takedowns and stuff like that, like that's how she would need a win here. Just because on the feet, like I feel like her gangly arms, they're not really really effective. Like the offense that she actually puts out, you saw in the Renault fight and the Shannon Young fight, she had to go to the grappling, at some point. And I think Dumont just like a pretty hard girl to grapple, just because how thick she is. She's pretty she doesn't give that many opportunities overall to grapple her. And yeah, so I think that she's gonna be like throwing little leg kicks. This fight's gonna be awful. Like
Awful.
if I could pick the what fight's gonna be the worst one, it's definitely gonna be this one. No slight to either of these ladies, but just both of their styles. It's just not gonna put together a very good fight. And I don't see them landing that big strikes either. So I mean, if you wanted to take an underdog shot because you thought that, hey, Macy, this is like an even fight, maybe you get in 185 on it, do your thing. But I just think that Dumont's probably going to be landing the jab. She's much quicker, more variety on the feet, and probably hits harder as well. And I don't really like Macy's conditioning or her just overall motor at any weight class. So I don't like her as a fighter, so I'll pick Dumont. But like I said, I won't watch any of it. Like I'll take a bathroom break for sure during this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe have a little more faith in Chiasson than you do, just because I mean, it's women's MMA. It's a fight that's going to be headed to the decision. Norma Dumont doesn't exactly put an emphatic stamp on rounds. I think Chiasson at 2-1 is probably going to be the side. I don't have a clear idea of how she's going to win the fight or get the fight in the area that favors her. Obviously, I think the grappling and clinching approach is going to be what Chiasson's going to go to. But really pathetic collapse against Raquel Pennington there. How fucking good is Rocky Pennington that she can go up a weight class and just decimate this Chiasson woman with very little sweat, and then get right back down to 135 in her next fight? She's a G, but not really too many thoughts on this one. I mean, I guess Norma is the better striker. I guess Norma has the better cardio, but I don't know. I could see Macy making it close with her grappling attempts, and just not interested at all in Norma covering minus 200. So just going to be skewed towards the dog there. That's enough about that one. Awesome fight next going on in the welterweight division. Francisco Trinaldo taking on Danny Roberts. Pick'em fight here, right? Minus 110 pick'em last time I checked. Yep. I'm kind of bouncing around all week, but I think this is an appropriate line to pick them. First off, huge fan of both of these guys. Trinaldo came through for us big in his last fight against Dwight Grant. I had a big bet on Roberts too as a big dog against Amiv. I think one of my biggest wins of all last year on Roberts there. So big fan of both guys, but I mean, my opinion of Trinaldo is he's squeaking by wins over Dwight Grant and over Jai Herbert, guys that he would have, beaten decisively years ago. And I just think that he's getting to the point now where I don't think that you can be betting on him in this matchup against Roberts, because to me, Roberts poses a decent threat everywhere. I think that he's going to be active on the feet. He's going to be pumping out volume. He's a big southpaw boxer. And remember that Trinaldo did get dropped with that straight left hand from Jai Herbert. Had some trouble with the southpaw there. I think, is Dwight Grant a southpaw too? I feel like he maybe had some trouble with him on the feet.
Orthodox.
But just the Dwight Grant round 1 and 2 were both like competitive, low output rounds. I thought Trinaldo won them both, and two judges thought he won them both, but one judge, Sal D'Amato, one of the worst in MMA, thought that Dwight Grant won the first 2 rounds. So it just shows that Trinaldo is making these rounds closer than they have to be. He's always been a counter striker, low volume type of striker, and that just isn't a style that works at 43 years of age. And I think Roberts, this is a big part of my breakdown against Ameev, is actually a pretty solid defensive wrestler, grappler in general. He's hard to get down and keep down. He knows how to stuff takedowns. He knows how to get off his back. And I just think that the big size of Roberts here is going to be tough for Trinaldo to out-grapple. Don't forget, guys, that Trinaldo was a historically 155 fighter. And this is probably one of the biggest welterweights he's fighting. So I think Roberts is going to be the side here. There's way less intangibles to worry about with Roberts, with the age and everything of Trinaldo. So I think Roberts is going to be the side here. It hurts me to pick against Trinaldo. I'm not sure I'll be betting against Trinaldo, but I'm pretty sure Roberts is going to be the better side to be betting on here at this pick'em price. And he'll be my pick to win by decision too.
Like the breakdown, I like both these guys. I was looking back, I've bet on both these guys in their last 4 fights. So I'm a fan of both. I'm pretty familiar with both of them as well. I think that this is a good matchup by the UFC overall. For another welterweight for Trinaldo to fight. He's looked good here at this 170-pound weight class. Other than the Salikov fight where he got clipped a little bit, I think Trinaldo's kept trucking here. He's maintained form even at this age of, he's gonna be 44 this year. This guy's fucking old. But I really did not expect him to have as many UFC fights as he's had, coming off the first season of The Ultimate Fighter Brazil. So kind of a crazy career, he's carved out for himself. Definitely a legend on the Brazilians, like an unheralded, very underrated, maybe like the lowest level legend that you could be. But I think this is a difficult fight against Danny Roberts. A lot of the points that you said, I think hold true. Roberts has been in some of these tough fights. He has some brain farts at times, but overall he's pretty skilled. Like you said, he at range, he's not bad. He has a diverse attack. This is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, as you said. The only issues that you've seen from Roberts at times have been, some of his durability issues, right, with maybe getting rocked with a few punches or getting stunned with some big strikes. And I definitely think these guys are potentially going to bang a bit. But I do kind of side a little bit more with the Roberts side. I know I've been talking to some of my guys. We kind of like the under potentially, but I don't think that I'm going to end up doing that just because of what Trinaldo's shown of late. His durability, the recovery he showed against Salikov was just very impressive, and he's never going to give up in a fight. That for a fact. And Roberts is the same kind of way. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight. I think pick on price ish is correct, but I would kind of lean over to the Roberts side. I think I'm going to do another circle back here on a few things that are coming to mind here. For me to potentially back Roberts on a bet, maybe even a prop, right? Roberts by decision. But I feel like the length of Roberts on the feet, the way that he could sprinkle in those kicks, and then stay active even when the takedown attempt that I'm pretty sure is coming from Trinaldo does come. I think Roberts will be able to defend a bit more and land and be a little bit more active. So I'll pick Danny Roberts, but I think appropriately line fight overall. It should be a fun one.
Yeah, maybe look at those late knockout props for Roberts because we have seen our boy Trinaldo slow a little bit. So I think you'll get some maybe plus 1,500, plus 2,000 on those round 2, round 3 knockout props. I'm trying to pull them up right now, but let's see. No, they don't even have him up on FanDuel yet. So check those
Roberts. Out. Roberts round 3 is 14-1 on.
Yeah, I see that.
DraftKings.
So knockout should be 18 or 20-1 or something. So maybe look out for those late props. Last prelim fight, also in the welterweight division, another good matchup here. We got Randy Rude Boy Brown taking on Chaos Williams. Another pick'em fight here. Brown was the dog earlier in the week, but he's been bet a decent amount down to a pick'em here. So your turn to start this one off. Another pick'em welterweight fight. Where are you going on this one?
Very good fight. I don't think anybody would have expected Chaos Williams to be 4-1 after his first 5 UFC fights, and he's got a good argument too to have won that Michel Pereira fight. I personally scored it for Pereira, but it was a close fight. And this is definitely a step up in competition a bit, but it's also a fight where they're kind of giving him a similar guy-ish to like Miguel Baeza and Brown. Obviously, Brown's much better than Baeza, I would say. Right, he has a lot of tools, but this is like a similar fight also that Randy Brown fought last time against Jared Gooden, where you got a guy in Chaos Williams is very durable, strong guy will invest in the calf kicks, looks to kind of just throw count look his offense on the feet is mostly like counter, boxing and throwing power shots. But he doesn't really, use the clinch that much. He doesn't really, have that much of a ground game. And he doesn't like, overall do that much work. Like he's not like a work rate beast. Randy Brown on the other hand, right? He's good with his kicks. His jiu-jitsu game coming out here out of here in New York is definitely top notch. He's caught submissions, right? He's been in the UFC for a long time. The knock against him for the most part has been his durability. You're right, he's been susceptible to the calf kicks. And all of these are issues that a guy like Chaos Williams definitely brings to the forefront. But Randy Brown is a very cerebral fighter. He's a high IQ fighter, I would say as well. And I think he knows how he has to approach this Chaos Williams fight. So I think we're going to see a lot of front kicks from Randy Brown. I think we're going to see him, feinting a lot early on, and I think we're going to end up seeing. I've been going back and forth a little bit on this fight. I do have a little bit of Randy Brown plus money, and it's gone to a pick'em price here now. But I think we're going to start seeing Randy Brown, throw out some more volume after a little bit of time, and be just better with the shot selection. And I think that a guy like Miguel Baeza could have beat Chaos Williams pretty easily if he would have selected his punches a lot better. And I think that's something that Randy does do actually pretty well. And Chaos Williams, I think he's going to end up hitting a lot of air against Randy, because people, they'll knock Randy Brown's chin, but what they don't see is, this guy moves well with the punches overall. Though, he'll hide behind his shoulders, he'll cut an angle off a punch. Right, he sometimes leaves a leg behind. Right, that's why he gets calf kicked. But he's actually pretty good at avoiding these strikes. And if, like I said before, if you're not like a guy like Chris Gutierrez or like a crazy calf kicker, like I'm not going to be that concerned with it. And Randy showed in this last fight where he fucked up one of his feet, and Jared Gooden was calf kicking him as well, that he's gonna overall be fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna make that like my ultimate concern with him here. My more concerned is Chaos Williams landing the hands. And truth be told, even though some of my guys that I work with a lot do like the Chaos Williams side, I just gravitate towards the better mixed martial artist, the guy who's shown me the better shot selection, ability to win these decisions as well, has knockout power, has a submission game, and even has a takedown game if he needs to go to it, with like all the leverage that he could put together in the clinch and on some of these takedowns. Right, this guy has a clinch striking game as well. So I like backing guys like Randy Brown. I think that he knows that this is like a get me over fight. He wins this one, he should probably be right on the cusp of getting a top 15 fight in the UFC. Right, this guy's a fun guy to watch, and I think this will be a fun fight as well. So I'll lean and pick Randy Brown, little plus money right now here with him here, and I hope to maybe add on to a little bit more if it goes that way again.
Yeah, I'm in pretty much agreement with everything there. I know some people like when we disagree, when we go head to head on picks, but we're just seeing the fights pretty similarly this week, and I like Randy as well. Is Randy from Queens, Ozzy? Does he have any Queens roots?
He is. He's like on that Queens Brooklyn board. I think he goes back and forth, but he is originally from Queens. He fights out of Queens.
That's pretty big, and yeah, I mean, I just see him as the much more skilled overall fighter. I think skill wise, Randy Brown is the much better fighter. I think most people who even like Chaos would say that. It's just on the Chaos side, you have the better power, the better one punch power, and probably the better durability as well. We haven't seen Williams hurt with a lot of the shots, but Randy Brown's been in the UFC for a long time. I mean, if Chaos had the same amount of experience and fought the same fighters as Randy Brown, we might see Chaos hurt more than we have as well. So I just think
Good
that
point.
Chaos. I think Chaos is just 1-2 leg kick. I really don't think the guy has much besides that. I mean, you saw in the Semmelsberger fight, Semmelsberger threw up a high guard and was just blocking, most of Chaos's punches in that fight. It was countering him really nicely, and it's just one simple high guard was blocking, 75% of Chaos's offense. So I think that Brown's last fight against Gooden impressed me. Similar analog, like Ozzy was saying, a guy who is known for his knockout power. Yeah, a good athlete, and I think that Brown handled that fight pretty well. Had some adversity with his foot, still won 30-27, still landed over 100 strikes over 3 rounds. And Brown isn't really known for going to that grappling game, but we did see Williams get taken down by Michel Pereira. We have seen Williams taken down on the regional scene, and I do think Brown has that grappling game in his back pocket to go to here. But I think honestly the striking should go well for him. I just see him as the more diverse striker. He's got those good knees and elbows that I think he might have finished a few guys with knees in his recent run too. So, and Brown's got power too. I remember that big punch he landed on Alex Oliveira, and then he subbed him too. So this dude's a good finisher. He knows how to seize an opportunity when it comes. And I'm also on Randy Brown at +112 here. CLV up the wazoo, and I'm feeling pretty good about Rude Boy.
That's the thing with Chaos. He's a little bit wide with these punches as well. And a guy like Randy Brown is a classically trained boxer. He's going to be direct to that target, and I think he's going to capitalize on his opportunities here. But like we said, this is a volatile fight. Both guys do stuff that could trouble the other guy. But I feel good about Randy's approach here to this fight. So it should be a good one though. Definitely be a good one.
I agree, and that'll be the last prelim. We got a 5-fight main card here. Two kind of old man fights to kick off the card. Then a really good fight, 2 really good title fights. So I think it's a pretty good pay-per-view, especially this first fight. Even though it's an old man fight, it's going to be an exciting one, and that's in the lightweight division. We got 2 legends going on. Joe Lauzon taking on Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone is the favorite here. Best Fight Odds has these odds all tweaked out. I think he's -165 for Cerrone, +145 for Lauzon. And I think that you gotta be crazy to be betting on Donald Cerrone as a favorite in 2022. I mean, winless in his past 6 fights. This is, an easier matchup for him, but the guy's also dropping back down to 155, guys. Don't forget this. He hasn't fought at 155 since the Justin Gaethje fight in September of 2019. So 2.5 years ago since he made this weight, and he's been getting knocked out at 170. Alex Morono, not a hard puncher at all, was able to knock out Cerrone there. It just seems like Cerrone's ability to take a shot has largely gone away. The Nico Price fight was maybe a decent performance from him there, but I mean, just cutting this extra 15 pounds. Like, if your chin is already bad at 170, you're cutting an extra 15 pounds. I mean, he's also had a year-long layoff as well. So, I mean, there's just nothing appealing about the Cerrone side. If anything, Cerrone looked alive at him, guys. Joe Lauzon is an infamous fast starter. He always comes out like a bat out of hell in round 1. That's been his style for 15 years straight. And he's probably going to, have a good chance to hurt and finish Cerrone early on here. But obviously, if he doesn't, Lauzon, his cardio has failed him lately in his later years in his career. You got to think the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Cerrone kind of taking over. But still, early on, round 1, Joe Lauzon is the side here. He's the dangerous one. He came out strong against Jonathan St. Pierce. Wait, is that his name? No, JSP. Whatever. What does the S stand for?
I don't know. No, it's just JSP because he always taking dudes down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I literally added the St. Pierce in there. Well, whatever. That win has aged immaculately, right? I mean, I know it was just a quick little fight there, but Lauzon came out, landed some hands, took him down, pounded him out, and there's a great chance that he could do the same thing against Cerrone here. All Lauzon needs to do is come out, catch the chin of Cerrone early with some punches, and he's got a great chance at translating that into a finish. So I like Lauzon here at plus money for like a small to medium bet. Don't go crazy. This is still an old man type of fight, but Lauzon round 1 plus 800, Lauzon knockout round 1 plus 1400. These lines are crazy against Donald Cerrone, a first round knockout at plus 1400. I mean, you got to take these lines, and I would definitely be cheering for Joe Lauzon here.
I mean, listen, like you said, Donald Cerrone shot to bits. Like, if you watch that that Alex Morono fight. I mean, he looked in like crazy shot. Now, I will say a little bit of intel that I'm sure a lot of listeners won't know is I heard from the horse's mouth, Craig Jones, who said that like the week of the fight, right? This is like the week they were taping that Ultimate Fighter Ortega versus Volkanovski. Apparently Donald Cerrone shows up, right? You saw him; he's on one of the episodes, and he wants to like roll like hard with Craig Jones, and it's the fight week against Morono, and apparently he like fucks up his rib a little bit. I don't know what the specific injury was, but Craig Jones said that he fucked up his rib, and Craig Jones is like, the joke is like, fuck Craig Jones, like he's an asshole, fuck Craig Jones. So he pulls his rib, and everybody's like, Craig Jones is like, oh fuck, like god damn it, like of course this happens to me. And then Donald Cerrone moves on and fights Morono. I don't know how much that contributed to him being looking so shot, but the guy looked like so bad in that fight. And I'll tell you actually, Alex Morono and Joe Lauzon, kind of similar type of guys. Like
They look exactly alike.
they look exactly alike. They're kind of known for like not always looking for the like they'll bang it with you, but they're very good grapplers as well, or so they say about Alex Morono. I don't know. And they're known to like be fast starters, right? Like slow down a little bit. But I mean, Joe Lauzon, I kind of do want to see him on the scale because honestly, in that JSP fight, like you mentioned, he looked good. Like he looked in shape, looked quick. And what I love about Joe Lauzon, and he's just like such a cerebral and smart fighter. Like I mean, he's he's in there to do business. Like the shots that he throws against JSP, they're fight enders. Like he's looking to be direct. Like every punch, every strike, every takedown attempt, clinch, whatever it is, has intent, and that's why the guy gets tired because he doesn't throw in the fucking filler, strikes and the filler stuff, and the stuff that'll score points. No. Every punch that he threw at JSP there was to knock that motherfucker out. And the same thing's going to happen here against Donald Cerrone. He's going to ruin Donald Cerrone until he's finished. And that goes both ways, either until Donald Cerrone's finished or until Joe Lauzon's finished. So, if people are jumping on the under, definitely understand that. I think you mentioned, I think the Joe Lauzon KO line. Donald Cerrone's only been submitted one time in his career, which is definitely a testament to him and his underrated ground game. So I do think that you definitely would need to have a piece of that Lauzon KO line if you're backing him. And I maybe missed a little bit of the price on Lauzon here, but I mean I still have to back him here just because, like you said, like Donald Cerrone, his durability is just awful. It's just he cannot take these punches anymore. He's slow on the trigger. He gets backed up a lot as well, and he doesn't pressure anymore. He's not he wasn't coming forward at all against Morono. And I think that is going to be easy for Joe Lauzon to take up real estate, fight the fight on his terms, right, on his script, right, like I like to say a lot of times, and be able to put a fucking hurt in on Donald Cerrone and retire him. Joe Lauzon's from the Northeast over here. He doesn't want to go out on an L, to a guy like Donald Cerrone. I think this is a good fight for both of them because Donald does have passed the victory here. In the kicks specifically and stuff like that. But if Lauzon comes with any semblance of cardio at all, I think he's going to ruin Donald Cerrone because I think that he's going to be able to wrestle him down potentially, and I just think that Donald he's just not with it. He's not all there anymore. Both in the headspace, shot selection, speed, durability, chin, any of that stuff. I wouldn't be carried away with a money line play on Joe. I think maybe I'll have that for a little bit, and then try to sprinkle a little bit of his, inside the distance props because I do think he'll eventually get to Donald if he does, win this fight. And yeah, those are my thoughts here, and I think that Joe Lauzon gets a finish over Cowboy, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cowboy somehow dug this fight out, and maybe that rib injury was, a big reason. But no way could you lay, $1.65 on Cowboy.
Plus 275 for Lauzon inside the distance. And Lauzon could have sailed off in the sunset. He had a win over home in Boston, a good win. It was aging well, and he obviously felt good enough to come back and test himself one more time. So he's a smart guy. I think, he has his own gym, a successful gym. He probably doesn't need the money. He probably feels good, and he wants to get back in there and win fights. So I feel good about that. Next fight, let's try not to spend too much time on this shit because we got OSP versus Shogun. Who this is insane that they're putting this fight together. OSP minus 235, Shogun plus 200. I mean, when they fought 8 years ago, Ozzy, it seemed like Shogun was shot to bits then, and here they are, 8 years later, doing a rematch. I have no idea, but what are you thinking about this shit?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that that there's another Shogun fight. I thought when I got robbed of that win with Little Nog, it was like
Nogueira.
plus 200. Yeah, I thought when I got robbed, that was the last time I would ever have to see a Shogun fight. That was a crazy robbery. Like that, people need to watch that when they think of robbery. That was a robbery. But I mean, I don't really know too much about this fight, like you said. I mean, I think that OSP maybe at this 205 weight class, like he still is going to be bringing power down. I just can't think that Shogun's really going to be getting any finishes over people. I mean, you see this with the price is 4-1. I think a Shogun finish would have to be relied upon OSP just slowing down a lot. So I think OSP is going to finish Shogun at the end of the day. I think I might just do a little for fun, like OSP by submission, right? Just because he is always live, and I feel like the physicality of Shogun, like it's depleting very quickly. Like Paul Craig had him, face down, as up, or just flat like a pancake, I should say. There, once he got on top of him, and I think OSP could probably force the Von Preux choke. So yeah, I think OSP is probably going to finish Shogun. It's going to be sad. Under 2.5 is not that it's like the same as like the main event, which I think is kind of interesting. But maybe you just take OSP ITD and move on with it. But yeah, it's going to be sad if he does put out Shogun really badly. So I hope he does it by submission and does it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think OSP has to be favored in every area. If he comes out wrestling hard like he did against Olachechuk, he should get Shogun down. Craig took down Shogun pretty easily. It seems like Shogun's ability to stuff takedowns is gone, but once he's on bottom, he is still capable of being hard to submit, maybe pulling off a sweep, maybe ending up on top. So Shogun's grappling, I think, is probably the part that has regressed the least. His striking is clearly the worst. His reactions, his timing is just really bad. So OSP can probably outstrike him easily here if he wanted, or go for that submission. But I don't know. I'll pose this question to you, Ozzy. Do you think that OSP will come out grappling, or do you think his game plan is going to be to strike?
I think he's gonna be looking to fire off that left kick, and then if that's not working, I do see him pushing into the clinch, and just because this dude's like a former football player. Like I feel like he feels if he locks his hands around Shogun, he could drag him down to the ground and start elbowing him. So yeah, I think they're gonna fall down to the ground at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. And just with the size and everything, the size. I got a Discord notification. I thought Craig left us for a second, but the size is going to be hard for him to overcome, and I think OSP should win however he wants. But I'm leaning a bit towards the knockout at plus 250 instead of sub, just because, like I said, that Shogun's jiu-jitsu seems to be the most competent part of his game still. And I think he could be hard to submit, and OSP could fold him with just one punch in the feet. He could pound him out on the ground like Craig did. So I'm leaning towards OSP knockout. And then that's going to take us to the next fight. We got Michael Chandler taking on Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler as the minus 400 favorite. Tony Ferguson a plus 300. So honestly, might be surprised to some, but I don't have much to say about this fight because I just think Chandler is going to annihilate him. I think that the striking and the grappling, either way that Chandler wants to win, he can. I say that Tony's only way to win is by submission. So Chandler, grappling, maybe look to offensive wrestle. Might be the more dangerous path just because Tony might be able to still tangle him up in some sort of submission. But Tony Ferguson's takedown defense has been terrible. His ability to escape bottom, terrible. His defensive reactions and his boxing defense, terrible. I mean, people are clinging on to the fact that he wasn't finished versus Justin Gaethje. Oh, he ate 100 shots. He still has good durability. But guys, the way he was eating those punches and reacting, that's not somebody with good durability. I mean, his body was shutting down on him as those punches were landing. And sure, he kept standing, but I mean, his body was failing him as he was eating those shots, and eventually the referee showed some mercy and stopped the fight. But that, I mean, that was a life-changing beating. He's had the knee surgery. He's got dominated for 11 rounds in a row, guys. Don't forget that. He landed one punch against Justin Gaethje in round 2, but he still lost that round. So he lost all 5 rounds against Gaethje. He lost all 3 rounds against Oliveira, all 3 against Dariush. And these are like 10-8 rounds, too. He's being just bell-to-bell dominated. I mean, the guy's confidence, his physicality, they're gone. The Tony Ferguson on the 11-fight win streak, that guy is gone. So even though Chandler is, having some wars lately too, he's been hurt lately. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. He's much faster. He's the better boxer. He's the better wrestler. I mean, I just don't see any way outside of some crazy fluke submission that Chandler is going to lose this fight. So I think Chandler is going to knock him out, and I think it'll be in the second round here.
Yeah, I think people, I don't know where, like, I understand looking for plus 300, guys to bet overall. But, I mean, everything that Chandler does is bad for Tony Ferguson. Like some of the argument, like, I've heard no arguments for Tony Ferguson. Only I hear is that Chandler sucks. He gets tired after one round. He's a different guy, yada, 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 all this stuff. Yeah, when he's a different guy? After he's put down a beating on the other dude, right? After he's been fucking up Charles Oliveira for like 4 minutes of the 5-minute fight. After he's been beaten, going to war with Justin Gaethje and landing bombs on him, throwing flying knees, going crazy, in a packed Madison Square Arena. And these two guys are fighting for the title. Tony, his optimal, way to fight is he's like hitting you with pitter-patter shots, coming forward. But this guy's just way too stiff, man. Like, he doesn't move. He can't move his head. There's no way he's learning now, to be able to move his head and, duck punches and slip punches. And, the way that he's moving just way too awkward when he's like trying to come forward. If you're looking at those Dariush or those Oliveira fights, and he just doesn't have that same hunger or like that same, natural affinity to bring out the chaos overall. If you're looking back, like he fought Pettis after he got his knee torn apart. He got dropped in that fight. Pettis slowed way down. You saw Pettis like later on like get schooled by Diego Ferreira, by Clay Collard. Like, he didn't have the power. But if he's coming forward like that against Chandler's gonna be dropping bombs on him easily. He should be able to tackle him whenever he wants. If he wants to hold him up against the cage and get double legs like Charles Oliveira did, he should be able to do that easily. And I'll tell you what, I think if he gets on top of Tony and is dropping this ground and pound, I wouldn't be surprised to see like an arm triangle or from Michael Chandler. I think that was something that I bet when he fought Dan Hooker. I thought that he might be able to wrap that fat ass bicep around his neck. But I think that's live here as well, because Tony, he's just weak. Like, he's been losing muscle mass. Like, I don't know what it is, if it's like the neurons in his brain that are leaving him. But I mean, I think it's gonna be easy to hit him. I think Chandler could throw leg kicks at him as well. I just don't see where Tony's winning this fight, putting out effective offense, and catching Chandler, as he comes in. I'd love to see it. I'm telling you, I'd love to eat crow for Tony to, turn back the clock. Pace Michael Chandler, hit him with all these shots, show the durability, maybe catch him with a submission. But I just don't see it happening. And, Chandler's going to be able to line him up for that big right hand too easily. And I could see very easily a repeat of that Patricky Pitbull knockout where Chandler is feinting, he's throwing the jab to the body, and then he just comes with the fastball and knocks the guy's head off. That's easily in play right here as well. So, I think Chandler's gonna finish him, but I mean, I was leaning towards this over, it was at minus 140, minus 160. I'm not that inclined to bet it anymore or add on to it, but yeah, I think Chandler takes care of business here and gets back on the winning ways.
Any interest in Chandler knockout plus 115?
No, none, zero.
Yeah, I don't think it's good enough of a price, even though I do see it happening. A Chandler round 2, though, at plus 500, knockout round 2 plus 650. I think that's the way to go. Enough about that one, though. Time for the women's strawweight championship fight. We got the Cookie Monster Carla Esparza finally getting her rematch. Doug Rose, Namajunas. We got Rose minus 198, Carla plus 173. Of course, this is the rematch from what was it, 8 years ago too? The same as the OSP-Shogun
Yes,
fight.
8 years,
I think
2014.
think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Carla submitted her round 3 of that fight. A lot has happened since then. Your turn to start this one off. What are you thinking about the women's title fight?
Very intriguing fight. I mean, I was in attendance for Rose versus Zhang too, and I think I was feeling, hey, this is a close fight, and I had a big bet on Rose because I was having a good night, and I definitely like tripled the action, I think, and I was definitely sweating a little bit there, and I think that paid true when I rewatched it as well. But Rose is good at winning like these close fights and making the adjustments and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't think she looked that great in that fight. I mean, ended up in mount like one time or maybe I don't know. She ended up on top like 2 times, I think, and in mount definitely on one of those times. And I mean, Carla got like folded in. I mean, or Rose got like folded in half, like on a few of these takedown attempts, like where Zhang like had her hand on her head on one side and like her hand on the leg on the other side, and just like bent her over. And Rose, I mean, Carla is just so adept, and if you guys are watching, like you could pick this up. Cutting like once she is in on the legs, like the corners that she cuts and how she just disappears and turns the corner, gets girls down, holds them down, and they just look bewildered, just like Rose did in her first fight. These girls have not figured it out yet. Carla's been doing this for a long time, and girls have not been catching up to her. You're right. The only girl that really was able to stifle her was Tatiana Suarez, who herself very credentialed wrestler, massive for the division, right? She can't make 115 anymore, so that was a terrible fight for Carla, and she had a banger of a fight with Claudia. But other than, and that I don't remember the Randa fight. I'm not even gonna mention that. But other than that, she's so like very tough. She knows how to win these split decisions as well. She's got a high work rate and has been and showed improvement when she got on top in her last fight. And I think on the feet, like Rose is she's dangerous, but she's never shown that she is like a pressure fighter on the feet. Like she's more of like looking to set up like single strikes, like good on the counters. She's good at finishing her combinations well, and finishing combinations like as you're finishing yours, right? She'll throw a counter, and that was great against what's her name, Joanna, right? Got her the win in that second fight that was very close. But I mean, I think the grappling here is just like it's going to be in Carla's favor. And Rose is a good submission artist and a good submission grappler, but I think she's going to have to be on top here to win this fight. And it could happen in the transitions. Carla does, start, sniffing ankles and shoelaces and, diving onto to the legs a little bit too much, if she does start getting tired. But she also tackles bitches and runs them over, right? Ask Marina Rodriguez. I was watching that fight, and if you're watching that fight live, there was a few times that you thought the momentum was shifting, and like going into the third round, like you're kind of feeling good about Marina. You're like, all right, Carla's gonna slow down. She can't, and no, she kept running her right over, multiple occasions. And Marina's, I think not a great analog, but she's a good striker. She's decently athletic. She's bigger than Rose, I would probably say. And Carlota had no issue there. Now, this is a 5-round fight. I think my play that I like here, I like the under because, and it's been hit quite a bit, right? Or on Bet Online, but you can find it good prices. At plus 160, I like the under just because I do think that Carla could potentially finish Rose here if she is like pacing her and putting damage on her. Right, the submission is at plus 180 or plus 1800. I do give Carla some finishing equity. You get the potential of the Rose finish as well, with maybe Carla just like slowing down overall. Like Rose inside distance is plus 200 on its own right. So you could get the under 4.5 at plus 160 to mix in, Carla just, putting out that dominant, grappling game plan on her. And I mean, the money line here as well. Like you could get plus 175, plus 180 on the girl with the better grappling, competent, boxing. Rose definitely has the better kick game, but I just feel the adjustments that Carla can make and the reads that she can make after making Rose uncomfortable are really really good for her and advantageous. And I got a background on money line. I mean, you're gonna hear this in a lot of places as well, but this girl's just super tough, and I like backing these girls that are wrestlers and the dominant grapplers in these women's divisions. Right, same thing that I felt with the Mackenzie Dern fight. And I feel like Rose is just getting too much respect here. After some wins over Weili Zhang, where I mean, Zhang just she's just propelled into that spot because she's like a physical freak and Chinese. So show me Rose. I need Rose to show me if she could fight off a grappler here. Dana White was trying to keep Carla away from Rose. I'll tell you that right now. And show me that you could beat the best grappler in the division, and I'll give Rose the respect that she deserves. But she's been fighting the same girls over and over again, and I think that she's gonna get slammed a few times, just like Jessica Andrade did in that first fight with them.
Yeah, so I'll also be on the Carla train here. I mean, we've been riding this train for a while now, and there's no chance we're getting off right now. I mean, I just don't get this line after watching Rose's early fight against Zhang and watching Zhang take her down and have a lot of success with wrestling. And the crazy thing is, Zhang had some takedowns in the UFC prior to that fight, but a lot of them came from the clinch. She'd get the body lock, she'd get a trip. She came out shooting, double legs, single legs in that fight. She caught a kick of Rose. Obviously, the training with Henry Cejudo paid off in that fight. And Zhang was able to get her down relatively easily. She wasn't able to keep her down for long stretches of time. But we did see some of the same tendencies that Rose did in the first Carla fight, where she goes to full guard and kind of just lays there in guard for the entire time. I mean, if you guys haven't rewatched that Zhang fight, I really recommend you would, because I mean, Zhang had her mounted at the end of round 3. I mean, she had her back taken at the end of round 3. I mean, she had really good positions on Rose there, and I don't even think that Zhang's A game. She's not primarily a grappler, and she was having a lot of success with something that's her B game. So imagine what Carla Esparza is going to do, who is, like Ozzy was saying, the best wrestler in this division, probably one of the best wrestlers in the history, or probably the best overall grappler in the history of women's MMA. I mean, seriously, right up there with Dern and with Rousey, and I mean with Shevchenko. I mean, I think Carla might be better than all those women because her wrestling is just so reliable. She's not known for putting a hurting on women on top all the time, but she, in her last fight against Yan Shannon, she showed that she's extremely comfortable throwing ground and pound, smashing Yan from top there, and coming off just a career best performance for Carla there. So I don't think that Carla has showed many signs of slowing down. She's been in some round 3s lately where she's gutted out some round 3 wins, like Marina, like you were saying. She hasn't been 5 rounds, so that is a bit concerning for Carla. She hasn't been 5 rounds in a really long time, and Rose has been in round 5 a few times. So you got to think that Rose definitely has the advantage in terms of cardio and 4-5 experience, 5-round experience, and just big fight experience too. I mean, Rose has been in a lot of big spots lately, and she has come through in a lot of them. So I mean, I give credit to Rose. We definitely don't dislike Rose. Ozzy and I both bet her in her last fight, both bet her in her last 2 fights, I'm sure. But I think the market is just way off on this fight. I mean, minus 200 for Rose when there's really no proof at all that she's going to be able to stuff these takedowns. It is crazy to me. So I'm a bit concerned about rounds 4 and 5 here. I really am. I could see Carla slowing down in 4 and 5, but the thing is, Zhang slowed really bad in those rounds too. Rose was on top, could have really capitalized on those, but she didn't exactly have the energy to chase a finish. So even if Carla loses round 4 and 5, I think there's a really good chance that Carla goes up 3-0 in these first 3 rounds. So, and I just trust Carla to win 3 rounds. I mean, it might be rounds 1, 2, and then she might take round 3 off. It might look like the tide is changing, and then round 4, Carla will come out and get one more takedown, win round 4, and win a 48-47. And that really is my prediction here. I think that Carla will win a competitive and close decision. I think that these rounds will be fairly clear. I think they're going to be, I don't think they'll be necessarily back and forth rounds. I think they will be fairly clear on who won them. And I just trust the wrestling, the cardio, the top game of Carla Esparza to get the job done. And I'm not sure I agree with the undertake here. I see the angle. I do. I think on the feet. I mean, I haven't even really mentioned this, but obviously Rose is the better striker on the feet, right? The striking is going to heavily favor Rose here. But her striking style. I mean, this is the last thing I'll say before we move on. But it's like she has two styles. When she came out hard against Andrade, remember the first Andrade fight? She came out hard, throwing a lot of punches. She got in Andrade's face and she boxed her up. I think that will have success here if she comes out aggressive and boxes Carla. But obviously, she's going to leave herself open for the takedown if that happens. But if Rose goes back to that patient striking style where she's sitting on the outside, picking her shots like she did against Zhang, I think that could also open up the takedown possibility for Carla. So I just feel that even though Rose is going to have a lot of success on the feet here, she's always going to have to face that takedown threat. I don't trust her takedown defense. I don't trust her get-up game. And I think that Carla is going to, out-wrestle her to a decision here. So I like Carla. I'm sticking with money line for Carla. Probably going to be like 1.5 unit, maybe 2 unit play for me on Carla. And I really hope the Cookie Monster comes through. You got any closing thoughts before we go to the main event?
No, just I really hope Carla wins. I mean, I think that a Rose win is like, her landing just big shots and Carla panic shooting and then a finish coming after that. So
Yeah, I do think the Rose round 4, round 5 props are pretty good. Rose round 4, 1,500, round 5, 2,400. So maybe look at those. But time for the main event, lightweight fight. One of the best fights possible to put together in MMA right now. You got the two best lightweights in the world: champion Charles Oliveira, challenger Justin Gaethje. Oliveira minus 175, Gaethje plus 150. Man, what a privilege of a fight to be able to watch this. I mean, just, terrific matchmaking and just, extremely grateful to watch these two excellent fighters go against one another. But, I like Justin the highlight Gaethje here. I really do. I think that if you look at Oliveira's recent wins, I mean, the guy had to go through hell in round 1 before coming out on top in 2 and 3. I mean, Chandler dropped him, Poirier dropped him, Poirier landed a lot of shots. And really rewatching the Poirier fight solidified my opinion that Chandler is going to be my pick, and I think that he will win because, Oliveira doesn't wrestle right away. He likes to oblige in the striking. He likes to trade strikes a little bit, and then he looks for the takedown. But he did that versus Poirier early, and then once he felt the punching power of Poirier, he decided to shoot that takedown, and it was a kind of a bad shot. Poirier stuffed the takedown, and he got right back to outboxing him. I mean, he sat Oliveira down in round 1 there, and I think that Gaethje hits harder than Chandler, and I think he hits harder than Poirier too. So I mean, I think that the chances that Gaethje lands a big punch here early on are really high, and we're gonna see Oliveira do that same thing where he sits down, he pulls guard, he's hurt, and he kind of just lays on his back. But another defining moment is that Poirier round 2, or Oliveira gets a kind of a brief back take on Poirier, and Oliveira actually falls off, and he's on bottom, and Dustin Poirier, like a moron, follows him down to the ground, tries to land some ground and pound, he gets tangled up, he ends on bottom, and the whole fight changes right there. I mean, if Poirier just backed away from that exchange and let the fight get back to the feet, I mean, who knows what could have happened, and I think that Gaethje is going to be well trained enough to be able to avoid that. So he's going to hurt Oliveira, and instead of following up with ground and pound, he's going to tell him to get right back up to his feet, and he's going to go right back to kicking that calf, to boxing him up. And I just think the boxing advantage for Justin Gaethje here is really high. So obviously, it comes down to takedown defense. Does Gaethje have the ability to avoid the grappling threat of Oliveira? And I think that people, saw Khabib get the takedown, saw Khabib get the back takes, and they're thinking, oh, Oliveira is going to do the same thing. But Khabib is a much better wrestler than Oliveira, a much better wrestler. And I mean, I just think that his takedown defense, Gaethje's takedown defense, is a lot better than people gave it credit for. You saw him show a little bit of that versus Michael Chandler. He's a lot better of a wrestler than people gave him credit for, and I think he's going to have success stuffing these takedowns, landing hard punches, kicking the calf, and obviously if Oliveira gets on the back, there's a really good chance the fight is over. There's a great chance that he rear naked chokes him, but I just think that Oliveira is going to have to go through absolute hell to get to that back. He's going to have to eat calf kicks and punches, and he's going to have to set up his takedown really well, and he's going to have to time it, and I don't know. I think that the side is definitely going to be Gaethje here. I think Gaethje has a great chance at scoring that knockout early, round one, round two. I don't think I'm going to be endorsing the Gaethje early knockout props, even though that's how I think it happens. I just think the Gaethje money line is good enough here. Don't really overcomplicate it. Take the money line, and I even think if this fight goes later, if it gets into the third, the fourth, the fifth round, I don't think that necessarily favors Oliveira. I mean, Gaethje has been later in the fight. He's been 5 rounds. I don't think Oliveira has ever been the full 5 rounds. So I don't think the later the fight goes, it automatically favors Oliveira. So I like the highlight here. I like him by knockout in round two.
This is a sweet fight. I mean, fantastic fight overall. In Justin Gaethje's hometown, or yeah, I guess adopted hometown. I don't know what it is, but I mean, this is gonna be a scrap overall. Obviously, Oliveira's all gas, no breaks. He absolutely broke Dustin Poirier in their last fight. I mean, 3 minutes in, Dustin Poirier is looking up at the clock. He eats like a few knees and a few front teeps to the body, and he wanted out of that fight. In the second round, like the fact that this guy does this cartwheel and lays on his back for 4 minutes, and then in the beginning of the third round, like the little strike to little body clinch shuck by to the back, and Poirier doesn't do anything to defend his back, doesn't do anything to defend the hooks or to fight off the choke. He had just given up. Absolutely pitiful performance by him. And I'm glad that I back Oliveira. I just wish I had done it a little bit bigger on the submission line. But getting into this fight, I mean, I feel that the tools that you saw him use in that fight, are not going to be there for him as much between the front kick, the right front kick to the body because of the difference in the stance. And then the clinch game, which I feel that Justin Gaethje is just a much better clinch fighter and overall just wrestler, grappler, like anything about grappling that Dustin Poirier, right? The ability for Justin to launch uppercuts into Charles Oliveira, be able to shuck him off as well, right? You saw Donald Cerrone, how he was busting them up with uppercuts as soon as they made contact there. Maybe ripping body shots as well. Once they are in close. And yeah, I like Justin Gaethje here. I mean, I think this guy is the goods. I mean, I've always thought that he was an insane fighter. Obviously, the grappling is the biggest issue here that you could potentially have with him. And, Chuck Oliveira has been improving his boxing, right? He did land that fantastic counter on Michael Chandler, popped him right on the jaw off that counter. I think Chandler was just trying to throw a right hand or something like that. So, Gaethje needs to be smart. But, I mean, when he is a little bit collected, he does know how to roll off of punches, how to be able to create his angles, how to be able to be in space and then take it away. And I think that he's like way more direct to his target. Oliveira, I think, is going to have to bum rush him at some point. And I do think that there will be at least one very, very sweaty moment where Oliveira's like in on his legs, or he gets him, he takes him down, or he has like a similar position like you mentioned in the second round against Poirier, where he's like hanging on his back and like holding on to him or whatever it is. But I mean, like Gaethje, like this guy's an insane athlete. Like you saw that cartwheel, that somersault that Poirier does. If Justin Gaethje is in that same position, he's gonna roll, flip, spin. Like it's gonna be very difficult to stay attached to him. And I actually think that, like, from someone who used to be like a grappler, I'm not saying like I was a grappler like Charles Oliveira, but like I'd be trying to like fucking hang on guys, whatever, drag them down. And guys that were quick and former wrestlers like Justin Gaethje that would go to that kind of defense where they're like just spinning all over the place. They were difficult. Like those are like the hardest guys to stay attached to, because you don't know which direction they're fucking going. And you're getting sweaty, and your mind, like the lights are on you. It's getting hot in there. Everyone's screaming. And then you don't know, and then next thing you know, you guys are apart, and now this guy's looking to come take your head off, right? As opposed to a guy like Khabib, that he just sucks away all the movement of a guy like Justin Gaethje, right? He gets attached to you, and you're not going anywhere because he's locking his hands, he's putting you down, and you're thinking, right? He's got a hold of you, and you're thinking of what direction can I go in, right? Because he's got such a great hold of you, as opposed to Charles Oliveira, where he's kind of like a go with the flow guy. He's like I'm gonna beat him to the next spot. into the next position, right, where he wants to go, and he kind of lets you go. And I think that's going to be a good matchup. Like I said, obviously, Oliveira could submit him, but on the feet, there's a big difference here. And like you said, the later rounds, if Oliveira is getting this attritional work put on him, right? If you look at the stats, I think Poirier, he didn't throw any leg kicks. He didn't throw any body kicks, and I think he got credited with maybe like 2 or 3 body shots. So there was no attritional work done to Oliveira. It's just Poirier throwing bombs at his head, and landing on most of them. I don't know what the stats are, but he landed most of them. But if Gaethje's chipping away at him, even if he doesn't finish him early, I think that the attempts for takedowns for Oliveira, they're not going to be as solid later on in the fight. So people thinking that if Oliveira just survives, later on he's going to be able to get easy takedowns. I don't go to that, agree with that at all. I think that actually it's going to be easier for Gaethje to be picking his shots and cracking them with big shots as the fight goes on. So I'm definitely on Justin Gaethje's side. I think that the kicks that he's going to be able to throw, I mean, it's just, this is an all-in moment for Justin Gaethje, and I'm getting him at plus 155, against the guy who I think is going to need, grappling, mostly to finish him. I think if they're on the feet, they're exchanging punches. Like, Justin could get clipped for sure. Oliveira has some KO power, definitely, and I do give some equity to the KO. But I think Gaethje knows this. He's going to be able to stay safe on the on the defense after he has thrown these shots, and that's when Oliveira is more dangerous on the counter as opposed to a guy like Michael Chandler, who he's more dangerous when he's going first, and that's what got Justin caught up there. So I think that Gaethje lands these big shots on him, eventually puts him out cold. Maybe starts dropping him a little bit with leg kicks, but as soon as this fight starts going downhill for Oliveira, I think it starts going downhill fast. He always has that submission threat in the back pocket, but Justin Gaethje money line, I'm on it. I think he's going to be able to land clean, effectively, and often, and eventually put away Charles Oliveira.
Nice. So we're in agreement with that one. Like I said, I think we agree with almost every fight this week. Sorry if you guys like when we disagree, like when we go.
We didn't talk about this at all before.
That's true. 0%. That's true. Just seeing. I mean, we're all most the dogs, right? I mean, like almost all the sides we're siding with is the dogs.
A lot of dogs.
And so best bet parlay of the week. Ozzy already mentioned it. Go ahead and mention it one more time.
Yeah, I'm going with Melissa Gatto on the money line. We'll grade that at plus 135. The odds are going down. I don't know. It might go down more. It might not. It might, get a pop up from people that like the Cortez side. I personally have it more between 145 and 155, but 135 I think is still good. I think she's gonna look good in this fight and get the win.
And I'm gonna go with Justin, the highlight Gaethje, baby, plus 152. I'm gonna do plus 134 for Gatto because it's on FanDuel. So if you combine Gatto and Gaethje right now, it's plus 490 on FanDuel right now. That's probably one of the highest odds we've ever had for our best bet parlay of the week. And I just like this card a lot. I think there's a lot of interesting dogs, a few fun pick'em fights, a good main event, good co-main event, and I'm just really excited. So, any closing thoughts here, Ozzy?
No, definitely looking forward to it. I mean, I'm definitely rooting for Justin Gaethje at the end of the night. But yeah, like I said, good card overall. I think good spots to get your money in. And I do think we could see some line movement towards the end of the towards fight day, and I think a lot of prop action that I think I'm gonna be adding in as well.
Nice. So thank you all for listening to the podcast. Hope you all win some bets this weekend. Enjoy the fights, and we'll see you before the next UFC card next week. Make sure you're all liking and subscribing, and really appreciate everybody listening. Thanks for your continued support, and enjoy the fights this weekend. Peace out, everyone.
Later.